And I see somebody's asking, what are ocean principles? So ocean principles, ocean is an acronym, and first came the vision of the vastness of the ocean. So first came this word ocean for me to describe the way I view dog training. And it was kind of an interesting visual, but really, the depths, the infinite nature, the ever-changing, the ripples on the surface, tsunamis, huge waves, like that to me is the expression of all the mental and emotional states that expresses external behaviors. And yet there's all this depth underneath that is generally unexplored. And so ocean is really metaphorically about the depths of what lies beneath the surface of the ocean. And the acronym is O, observe your dog. So that's the foundation of everything. And every successful dog trainer is doing that intensely, whether they know to the level they're doing it or not. That the dog is constantly giving us feedback about our training. And if we are only focused on talking to the dog and telling the dog what we want them to do and missing the communication that's coming back via body language, that we can end up with a stressed out, frustrated dog and a dog that either shuts down or starts amping up because we are not observing the ripples. And when a dog shows a little bit of confusion, let's say the dog licks his lips or turns away, or the ears drop, or there's something about the dog's energy that looks a little deflated, or the dog starts getting a little bit tense and forward feeling. And if we ignore all that, the dog's just going to keep amping it up. So ripples turn into waves, turn into tsunamis. And then the person goes, oh my God, why is my dog doing that big hairy thing? It's, well, because you had missed the ripples. So ocean is designed to help people see the most subtle ripples that even experienced dog trainers, like I just worked with somebody who's a really high level agility competitor. We teach at Marin Humane. She has this young high drive dog that was viewed by her and the instructors that she was working with as out of control, like terrible. And this dog had some mark training on her. And all we did is I pointed out to my friend every little bit of communication the dog was doing in my yard with a couple of mark buckets. I said, did you notice the ear twitch? Did you notice the head bob? Did you notice this? Did you notice this? In the first session, she's like, no, I'm not noticing anything. Because her history is, I'm training a dog to do behaviors. Agility is an external behavior driven sport, like all sports. And she was just used to, is the dog doing the thing? So I send her a video of this lesson and she sees it and she's like, oh my God, how are you seeing all that? And how am I not seeing all that? Well, by the second session, she was seeing 90% of what I was seeing. And the reason she was seeing it is because I helped her get conscious about things that, the world that we experience as the visual world is raw data. It is a massive amount of raw data that is feeding in through our eyes. And our brain is taking that raw data and presenting like a holographic picture based on past experience, based on what the brain thinks is important because of what it's experienced in the past. So our brain is going to go, it's going to notice when the second foot hits that mark bucket, because good trainers are going to mark that moment. But if the brain has never noticed there's anything of value in recognizing that the dog just did an ear twitch, the brain's just going to let that raw data just go by and it's going to go second foot. So by making conscious all these little subtle things, that human being's brain now goes, those are all important, and you will start seeing them and being conscious of them. So that's what's happening, scientifically, and that comes from my experience with the biology of vision through my art. So this is how they all come together. Okay, so now we've got that observing your dog. If you think you're seeing everything there is to see about your dog, you're mistaken for sure. And if I were to say I'm seeing everything there is to see, I'm mistaken for sure. I see a lot more than most people because I've been working at it longer, and the more teams I work with and observe their dogs, the better I'm getting. And so I know it's infinite to how good we can all get, how the depths of what we can see. And one little example of how you can be taking in raw data and it's subconscious, but your brain is kind of registering in some way, is if you do a dog sport that has a static behavior that's part of it, like a start line stay, or I guess there's stays and obedience. There is a feeling you have, a gut feeling that your dog is about to break, right? You have that feeling before they do it. And it's not a gut feeling, it's not woo-woo stuff. That there are barely perceptible changes that is happening when your dog is thinking break. And we perceive that, but if our brain hasn't made consciousness of it, that we're not noticing, oh, there's a tension in the shoulders, there's a little bit of change in my dog's jawline, that it feels like instinct. I just feel my dog's going to break. Well, you can learn to perceive those things through observation, but what you also learn by really connecting with your dog is that those instincts you trust are seeing without consciously knowing, and you trust them. So this allows the opportunity to go, my dog's about to break, and I can give the word that says, oh, don't do it, and it's a very neutral, positive word, and I'm basically marking my dog's thinking, which is kind of wild, right? And now here I'm going to add one more little thing, and I just learned last week, and it's Tim Lewis wrote a book, The Biology of Dogs, that has a little thing on vision, and I didn't know that it takes 1/10 of a second for visual data to go from the eyes to the brain and back. That's a long time. So when we see our dog put a second foot on a mark bucket, it's 1/10 of a second before we even have seen it enough to say it. And now there's probably a little bit of lag there too. So in our dog's perception, we in our minds think, oh, I saw it and I'm marking it. We're probably 2/10 of a second late. So there's some advantage to marking your dog's thinking that you're actually marking more likely when it's actually happening versus when your perception allows you to see the end result of something happened 1/10 of a second ago, which is kind of wild. Anyway, I love stuff like that. So there's the first principle. It's the one that underlies everything. Everything builds on observe your dog. The second one, connect with compassion, is connect with the dog in front of you. That's what I mean by compassion. So you may have a plan, a training plan. You may have a plan to leave your house to go for a walk. And the dog that shows up is going to have his own plan. So if you go, I'm doing my plan no matter what my dog's plan is, yes, you can make your dog, do what you need because your dog weighs 40 pounds instead of 1,200 pounds like a horse. But if you were to start treating your dog like a horse, you would realize that I want to take my dog for a walk, but my dog is racing down the stairs. And if that were a horse, that could be potentially dangerous. So you'd be like, that's the first thing you would say, hey, we can't really do that because that, you could take me out and you're a 1,200 pound animal, you could kill me. So then you'd be like, okay, we're going to walk down the stairs together. You're going to actually train that. And instead of pulling at the end of a leash, you're not going to go buy a no pole halter. You're actually going to go, okay, we need to learn to walk together with cooperation. And you might even go so far to go, you know what, this dog is not ready to go for walks on leash in the environment that I live. And that was something that's coded. It took us a year to be able to walk out the front door. So the connection between horse and dog here is taking a dog out on a leash that is anxious, reactive, going to pull on the end of the leash so you have specialty equipment, harnesses and such, is in my mind the equivalent of putting a saddle on a horse and jumping on its back when you know the horse is not ready to go out in the environment. You'd never do it because you have something at stake, your life. Versus with your dog, you can push and pull them around because I want to go for a walk. I like taking my dog for a walk. I'm going and going and going. So connect with compassion really sets people back to go, okay, I'm a living being, my dog's a living being. How can we coexist in a way that is respectful and compassionate with each other instead of me saying, here's our plan, we're doing it, damn it, dog, we're doing this. So that's where it's coming from. And you know what, I think for a lot of people, that's a mind shift there, that you go, you've rented the agility field and your dog shows up and is dragging you into the field. What is that setting into motion here about, your agility experience? So it's just giving people an opportunity to think about their plan and when, in fact, they need to step back and allow the dog's plan to play a role. So the third, engagement with joy, is what naturally happens when you observe your dog and connect with compassion. Most of us have dogs because of the joy they bring. When we're at home with our dogs, we're usually smiling and all of that. And if for me, if I'm not feeling joyful when I'm training, then I know something is not going right. That the things we do with our dogs are play. There's nothing serious about agility. There's nothing serious even about like the ring sports. This is all play, and dogs perceive it as play. And so humans can get quite intense about, I need to get ready for a trial. I need to, we need to do well so I look good, all this stuff. So engagement with joy is the result of the first two. Then attitude before anything is what happens when you are doing the first three principles, is that you're putting your dog's attitude and your own attitude above everything else. If it's not fun, then there's some mental shift in you or your dog that you need to address first. And never stop learning about yourself and your dog. Well, that I started off by saying that it's an infinite world out there for us to make conscious of. The visual world alone, and what we can learn about our dogs and different ways of thinking. It's endless. And anybody who, has kind of put themselves into a blinder situation saying, this is the way you train that with every dog, would benefit, and so would all the dogs, from opening it up and saying, this worked with my dog, it worked with that dog. It's not working with that dog. Let's look at this from another angle. So there are the ocean principles.